He was an untalented nobody, yet somehow ended up leading the most elite group of treasure hunters in existence. Cry had no grand ambitions. He just wanted to live a quiet, uneventful life in the peaceful village where he was born. The idea of plundering treasure vaults and battling monsters seemed far too dangerous for his liking. However, his childhood friends had different dreams. They had sworn to become legendary treasure hunters together, earning fame and the respect of heroes. Many years had passed since that promise, and now Cry found himself in the capital city, where one of the biggest clans, First Steps, was holding a massive recruitment event. Without making a fuss, Cry slipped into the queue, listening as a girl named Ruta started running her mouth about how she usually worked solo. She admitted she was struggling with a treasure vault called White Wolf's Den, so she had decided to team up with others for a change. Out of nowhere, some loudmouth in line scoffed at her, mocking the idea that she could take on White Wolf's Den at level 3. This Scarface guy's insults got under Ruta's skin, and before long, the two were trading heated words. Cry had no interest in getting dragged into this nonsense, so he did his best impression of a background decoration, trying to blend in with the wall behind him. Fortunately, a guard stepped in to break up the argument, and soon enough, they were inside the tavern. Ruta, still fired up, turned to Cry and asked him to fill her in since he had attended many of these events before. She wanted to know about the flashiest party in the clan first. Cry explained that the most prominent group was led by a blonde-haired playboy named Ark, who held a level 7 certification. With only 5 teammates, he had somehow managed to clear a rank 7 treasure vault, cementing his party's reputation as the best in First Steps. Ruta was astonished to hear that and immediately asked Cry about the empty seat next to Ark's party. Before he could respond, Scarface butted in, scoffing at her ignorance. He smugly informed her that the seat belonged to none other than the leader of the renowned Grievers Party, the very same group that had founded the First Steps clan. With a smirk, Scarface added that the massive turnout at the event was mostly due to the fact that, for the first time ever, Grievers was looking to recruit a new member. Out of nowhere, a furious redhead started shouting at the event organizers, demanding to know where the Grievers Party was. He had shown up just for them. A girl named Tino stepped forward to deal with him, her presence alone enough to silence the murmuring crowd. Even though the guard from earlier tried to intervene, neither Tino nor the redhead had any intention of backing down. The tavern was thick with anticipation, as the gathered hunters were eager for a fight to break out. Sensing trouble, Cry nudged Ruta and suggested they step outside before they got caught in the chaos. Meanwhile, Tino was just getting started when, all of a sudden, she detected a familiar presence. Without warning, she lost all interest in the redhead and began scanning the room. Her eyes landed on Cry, and in an instant, she completely ignored her opponent's incoming attack and dashed straight for him. Moments later, he found himself tackled to the ground by Tino, whose demeanor had undergone a complete transformation. Just then, the blonde-haired Ark arrived, shaking his head at Cry and informing him that he was late. Until both the clan master and the leader of Grievers arrived, they couldn't begin the event. A stunned silence spread through the crowd as the realization hit. This seemingly pathetic nobody lying on the ground was none other than the leader of the legendary Grievers. Cry, now the center of everyone's attention, wished nothing more than for the ground to swallow him whole. His journey had begun 5 years ago when he and his childhood friends founded the Grievers Party to chase their dream. They had started with beginner vaults, clearing them with remarkable speed. The truth was, all the effort had come from his friends. Cry had spent most of his time either confused or hopelessly exposed. Yet, for some reason, his friends believed he was deliberately acting as bait to lure in monsters. He was the only one in the group with zero actual skill, and he knew it was only a matter of time before he became deadweight. That was why he made up his mind to leave the party for their sake. When he gathered everyone to break the news that he was quitting, they responded with the same level of acknowledgement as his crush did when he texted first. Instead of reacting, they simply told him that their party didn't have an official leader, so he might as well take up the role. Cry was utterly dumbfounded that his resignation had somehow turned into a promotion, but his protests were ignored. Left with no choice, he accepted the position, unknowingly becoming the leader of what would soon be the strongest party in the world. Back in the present, Cry was now seated with Ark and Tino flanking him, both vying for his attention. Ark, ever the tactician, remarked that Cry must have intentionally arrived late so he could blend in with the applicants and secretly evaluate them without revealing his identity. Cry wanted to correct him, to explain that he had just overslept, but before he could, Ark shifted the topic and asked if he had found anyone promising. Cry's gaze landed on the aggressive redhead from earlier. He pointed at him and asked for his introduction. The boy confidently introduced himself as Gil, and Cry, trusting in nothing but the ever-mysterious god of plot armor, figured that if Ark's party trained him, his potential could be unlocked. Cry knew he had zero talent when it came to scouting people, but that didn't stop him from making his decision. However, before finalizing it, he decided to set a condition. Cry announced that the most crucial qualities in a hunter were strength and an unbreakable will. To test whether the applicants possessed these traits, He declared that he would personally challenge everyone. With a completely straight face, he proclaimed that since becoming a hunter, he had never lost a single match. The room fell into stunned silence. Of course, what he didn't mention was that he had also never been in a proper fight. He removed one of his rings and raised it for all to see, declaring that whoever managed to obtain it would receive his recommendation to join Ark's party. Without hesitation, he tossed the ring into the crowd. Gil lunged forward, determined to seize the opportunity, but before his fingers could close around it, Tino moved at lightning speed. With a single, merciless kick from her powerful thighs, she sent him straight to the shadow realm. The ring flew from his grasp, hitting the floor and rolling away, igniting sheer chaos. In an instant, every hunter in the tavern went wild, chasing after the ring like a pack of rabid animals. Cry, ever the improviser, casually added that the ring was actually a treasure item and that whoever managed to capture it could keep it. With that, he cheerfully wished everyone the best of luck before turning to Ruta and Scar, telling them he'd see them around. The next day, as Cry was lounging in his office without a care in the world, his secretary, Eva, barged in, looking thoroughly annoyed. She wasted no time in ranting about the absolute chaos his little challenge had caused the previous day. To make matters worse, she informed him that the Treasure Hunter Association also wanted to have a word with him. Cry's first instinct was to send Ark in his place, but unfortunately, Ark was out of the city. With no other options, Cry had to face the music himself. As soon as he arrived at the office, he didn't hesitate. He immediately dropped to his knees and started groveling, spilling out apologies like his life depended on it. However, Chief Gark was far from impressed. Without even acknowledging the pitiful display, he motioned for his secretary, who promptly handed Cry a thick book filled with missions. These were not ordinary jobs. These were the tasks no hunter wanted, either because they were mind-numbingly dull or ridiculously difficult. Desperate to escape this mess, Cry started flipping through the book, searching for something easy that he could shove on to someone else. His eyes landed on a level 3 vault mission about rescuing some stranded hunters, and without thinking twice, he snatched it up. Unbeknownst to him, he had just selected the deadliest assignment in the entire book. Upon returning to the clan office, Cry found Tino waiting for him. She proudly presented the ring she had won yesterday, expecting praise. Instead, Cry casually asked if she was free at the moment. Tino's mind immediately jumped to one conclusion. She was finally going to advance to the next level with her beloved master. Her excitement was short-lived, however, as Cry simply wanted to hand off his newly acquired mission. The moment she realized what was happening, Tino vanished from the room as if Thanos had just snapped his fingers. However, Cry was prepared for her usual escape tactics. He activated an artifact that instantly tracked her down and bound her before she could get too far. The rescue mission was set in the White Wolf's den, and Cry knew exactly who to send along with Tino. Without wasting any time, he assembled a party consisting of Ruta, Tino, Scar, and Gil to tackle the mission. 6 years ago, when his original group had gone to register as a party at the Treasure Hunter Association, a certain redhead named Luke had kicked the door open with all the grace of a rampaging bull. Without hesitation, he loudly introduced himself as the strongest swordsman in the world. As if that wasn't bad enough, right after him, a tanned girl named Liz proudly declared that she was the greatest thief. Cry cringed so hard at the sheer level of second-hand embarrassment that he genuinely wanted to disappear from existence. But his suffering didn't end there. His friends continued making a spectacle of themselves. With great reluctance, he dragged himself to the receptionist to complete the necessary paperwork for their party registration. The receptionist then asked him to choose a party name and a symbol. Up until that moment, none of them had even considered it. Seizing the opportunity, Cry intentionally picked the lamest name he could think of, Grievers, along with an absolutely terrible, hand-drawn skull as their symbol. His hope was that the sheer embarrassment would make his friends reconsider having him as their leader. His plan backfired spectacularly. While everyone agreed that both the name and symbol were absolute garbage, Cry countered by claiming that he simply couldn't find the motivation to be a treasure hunter if they used anything else. But instead of rejecting the idea, his friends immediately changed their tune. They enthusiastically told Cry that his naming sense was top tier, and they had only just realized it because they weren't as insightful as he was. Cry, now completely trapped by his own scheme, had no way out. And just like that, the Grievers party was born. Back in the present, Cry stood before the 3 treasure hunters, who were still struggling to process the absurd reality that he was the leader of Grievers. Doubt filled their expressions as they hesitantly questioned whether he was really the level 8 hunter known as Thousand Tricks. Before Cry could say anything, Tino stepped in like an overprotective guard dog, ordering them to kneel before Master Cry without hesitation. He quickly tried to get her to stop scaring them, but Gil, the redhead, bluntly stated what was on everyone's mind. Cry looked way too weak to be the real deal. Choosing to ignore the comment, Cry instead asked if everyone was willing to assist Tino in exploring the level 3 treasure vault. Gil immediately refused to take orders from him, which led Scar to start arguing with him, demanding that he show some respect to a level 8 hunter. Seeing the situation spiraling out of control, Cry decided the easiest solution was to drop Gil from the team. However, before he could finalize it, Gil suddenly challenged him to a fight, boldly declaring that if he lost, he would willingly become Cry's underling. Cry sighed and agreed, but with a twist. He pointed at Tino and casually informed Gil that she was the leader of this group and would be fighting in his place. Gil, eager to prove himself, accepted the challenge. They moved to the training hall, where Gil confidently told Cry that after defeating Tino, he would come for him next. But Cry simply shrugged, pointing out that Tino was a level 4 hunter, the same rank as Gil. Tino, brimming with confidence, casually dropped her weapons, stating that she wouldn't even need them. Seeing this, Gil smirked and tossed his own sword aside, ready to fight on equal terms. The moment he let his guard down, Tino launched herself at him before he even had time to blink. He barely dodged her first strike, only to realize, too late, that it was just a setup. Her real attack came in the form of a devastating kick that sent him crashing into the wall. Tino confidently assumed victory, but Gil, proving his resilience, pulled himself up and charged at her once more. This time, however, she swiftly ended the fight with a precise strike to his neck, knocking him out cold. Without missing a beat, Tino turned to Cry with shining eyes, eagerly awaiting his praise. She proudly declared that she had only become this strong because of him. Gil remained sprawled on the floor, staring at the ceiling in disbelief. He had always been the strongest among his peers, dreaming of becoming the world's greatest swordsman. Becoming a treasure hunter was supposed to bring him closer to that goal, but he soon outgrew his old party and set off to find stronger comrades. Cry, watching him sulk, casually asks if he left his party due to the overwhelming gap in skill. Gil, shocked, demands to know how he figured that out. Cry simply shrugs and says he went through the same thing. However, he conveniently leaves out the detail that his friends never abandoned him. Then, without warning, Cry nudges Gil's sword with his foot, and flames erupt around his body. Gil stares in shock. He has never been able to manifest flames at this level, yet Cry pulls it off effortlessly, without even touching the blade. Reality finally sets in. Cry is ridiculously strong. With that out of the way, Cry pulls out the mission details. Their target is the White Wolf's Den, where they must rescue stranded hunters. The vault is home to the vengeful spirits of silver wolves that were hunted to extinction. Later, his secretary, Eva, scolds him for sending Tino and the others to such a dangerous place. Cry dismisses her concerns, pointing out that it's just a level 3 vault. Then, his attention shifts back to the sword. He casually mentions that it's a treasure relic, so easy to use that even Gil can wield it without prior knowledge. In an instant, he transforms into a full-blown relic fanatic, gushing about how incredible treasure vault relics are and how he must collect them all. His eyes gleam as he contemplates buying Gil's sword. Eva, exasperated, reminds him that he already owns more relics than he can use. Cry argues that every relic is unique, so he never gets tired of them. Suddenly, he remembers his relics need recharging. Heading to a mage in his guild, he listens as she and her partner casually drop some terrifying news. There's been a sighting of a phantom wolf near White Wolf's Denver. It wiped out an entire caravan guarded by level 3 hunters. As if that wasn't bad enough, the monsters in the vault have been getting stronger, and even a team of level 5 hunters has gone missing inside. Cry's face goes pale as he processes the horrifying news. With shaking hands, he yanks out the mission page, realizing he never even glanced at the names and levels of the people he was supposed to rescue. Now that he sees they're all level 5, panic floods his system. He just sent Tino and the others to their deaths. When he blurts this out, the mages freak out too, but instead of questioning his incompetence, they assume this is just Cry's brilliant way of training promising rookies. Not wanting to hear any more nonsense, Cry bolts from the room, desperately trying to convince himself that everything will be fine. Meanwhile, Tino's party has arrived near the treasure vault, and the eerie atmosphere is putting everyone on edge. She knew from the start that this mission was way above their level, but still, she reassures the others that Cry must have had some grand plan in mind when putting their team together. That comforting thought is immediately shattered when a towering wolf monster, clad in armor and wielding a weapon, lunges at them. Tino's breath catches in her throat. She never imagined the enemies here would be this powerful. But no matter how terrifying the odds, she refuses to disappoint her master. She braces herself for battle. Back at Cry's office, guilt weighs heavily on him. He can't just sit back and do nothing. He has to help. Without hesitation, he rushes to his bookshelf and pulls a hidden lever, revealing a secret chamber where all his treasured relics are stored. His eyes scan the collection before settling on a small vault containing something very special. Gathering everything he needs, he emerges from the room, only for Eva to nearly attack him, mistaking him for a burglar. Once she realizes he's actually planning to rescue his team, her eyes widen at the sight of a forbidden relic hanging around his neck. But before she can question him, Cry swiftly tucks it away, insisting he won't use it. It's far too dangerous. Then, without another word, he steps up to the window. "I'll be back soon," he declares dramatically. With a flick of his wrist, he activates his robe's power and soars into the night sky like a majestic bat, completely unaware that his fancy relic has zero controls and no brakes. Back inside the cave, Tino's party somehow manages to take down yet another monster way above their usual pay grade. In the aftermath, Gil realizes with horror that his sword is now completely drained of mana, thanks to Cry casually flexing its power earlier. Scar looks just as shaken, while Ruta gasps for breath, exhausted from taking down just one of these beasts. Scar suggests that they should retreat, arguing that they're nowhere near the right level to handle these monsters. But Tino instantly shoots the idea down, insisting that Cry must have sent them here for a reason. There's just no way she's going to disappoint him. She even goes as far as saying that Gil's sword running out of mana is all part of Cry's master plan. With unwavering faith in her all-knowing master, she pushes forward. Soon, they arrive at the entrance of the dungeon, only to spot a group of armored wolf monsters waiting outside, armed with bows and guns. The party immediately ducks behind some rocks to strategize. After some discussion, everyone agrees that avoiding open combat is their best bet. The plan? Sneak into the cave first and then deal with whatever's inside. That's when Gil, in a heroic display of zero brain cells, volunteers to be the distraction while the rest make a break for the entrance. Tino stares at him like he's just sprouted another head and bluntly tells him that if he tries anything stupid, the wolves will absolutely rearrange his insides. Gil, ever the optimist, argues that even without mana, his legendary sword is still a deadly weapon. But as the actual team leader, Tino denies his suicidal request. Instead, she assigns herself and Ruta to draw the wolves' attention while Gil and Scar attack from behind. By pushing themselves beyond their limits, the team is stunned to realize they're actually managing to take down these monsters. But before they can celebrate, more creatures suddenly emerge from the cave, forcing them back into battle. Tino, rather than diving in, steps back to observe her makeshift team in action. Even though their skills are rough around the edges, she can already tell they might be a small group, but within their own specialties, they're strong. While all of this was unfolding, Cry's #1 simp started fawning over him yet again, convinced that Cry definitely planned everything down to the last detail, sending them here to boost their confidence and help them grow. As he fights the monster, Gil recalls a time when he trashed his own teammates, believing they weren't good enough to keep up with him. Back then, he arrogantly walked away without once considering how they felt, completely overlooking the fact that they were trying their best. Just as he starts to struggle against the beast, Scar regains his footing and body checks the monster away, giving Gil the opening to deliver a devastating slash to its chest, killing it instantly. At that moment, it clicks for him. So this is what it's like to fight alongside competent teammates. Without a second thought, he follows the others into the next area. Before moving forward, Tino abruptly halts the team, claiming she senses someone nearby. Scar wonders if it's the missing hunters, but Tino, in peak delusion, declares that Cry must have planned for them to face a boss monster before retrieving the injured. Because real growth only comes from danger. Her words strike a chord with Scar, who admits that ever since reaching level 4, he's lost his drive, never daring to challenge himself with higher-level dungeons. Tino, practically glowing with devotion, tells him that Cry must have noticed this immediately, which is why he was placed on this team, to face his fears and grow stronger. She then turns to the rest, fully committed to the delusion, proclaiming that each of them was chosen for a reason. Cry isn't just throwing them into death traps for fun. He's a divine mastermind pulling all the strings for their inevitable growth. Meanwhile, outside the cave, Cry is losing his damn mind. He speeds up as fast as possible, completely forgetting that his robe has no brakes. This results in him becoming a human pinball, ricocheting his way straight into the dungeon, just as Tino's party finally comes face to face with the massive boss monster. Scar immediately sizes up the boss and rightfully thinks it's way too big for them to handle. Before they can even process a plan, the monster swings its massive axe at them, forcing everyone to scramble for their lives. Tino quickly realizes that this thing is absurdly powerful. If they don't come up with a solid strategy, they're toast. She notices that the boss isn't wearing a helmet and decides their best bet is to go for the head. She tells Gil to block the next attack, while she goes in for the killing blow. Without a second thought, Gil agrees. As the monster lumbers toward them, they spring into action. Gil somehow manages to block the incoming strike with his sword while Scar tries to land a hit from behind, only to get absolutely bitch-slapped across the cave. Tino wastes no time. She zips toward the monster, dodging its attacks as it turns its attention back to Scar, snapping his sword like a twig. Just as it's about to finish him off, Tino leaps onto its axe and sprints straight for its ugly face. She takes a leap of faith, but the monster reacts faster than expected, slashing her legs as she sinks her blade into the back of its neck. Thank you, Attack on Titan. Luckily, her reckless plan somehow works. The boss vanishes as she crashes to the ground, immediately pulling out a healing potion. Gil and Scar, still shook that they're somehow alive, walk over to Tino. She casually hands Scar her sword, saying she'll be fine without it for now. Then, out of nowhere, she senses something and instinctively dodges a spear that comes flying at her from the shadows. They all freeze. The boss is dead, so where the hell did that come from? Before they can react, For more monstrous figures emerge from the darkness, each wielding different weapons. For the first time, even Tino thinks Cry may have overdone it. One boss was plenty, but four? Still, she refuses to let him down. She quickly formulates a plan. They need to escape through the narrow cave where the monsters won't be able to follow. But one of them immediately moves to block the entrance. Scar and Gil exchange a look before stepping forward, telling the girls that they'll act as bait so Tino and Ruta can get the hell out of here. Ruta tries to argue, but Scar cuts her off, saying that everyone dies someday, and it's better if at least some of them survive. Tino, however, flat out refuses to let anyone sacrifice themselves. What would Cry do in this situation? Suddenly, she remembers. She still has the magical ring that he gave her. She quickly orders them to back her up, and all three launch a relentless attack on the monster, striking in rapid succession. Meanwhile, Tino channels the ring's power, which fires compressed air bullets, and aims straight for the beast's eyes. The monster thrashes around wildly, blinded by the attack. Seeing an opening, Gil goes in for the finishing blow, only to get swatted like an annoying fly. Before Tino can even react, the other monsters are already on them. Just as they brace for the worst, Cry comes crashing into the cave like an unguided missile and annihilates one of the monsters, sending it flying into the wall. Tino stares in shock at his sudden arrival, while Scar notices something strange. These monsters are actually scared of Cry. One of them lunges at him, but thanks to his overpowered relics, it might as well have thrown a pillow. Without hesitation, Cry fires a magic blast from his enchanted rings, smashing the beast right back into the wall. Then, he pulls out a smoke bomb and chucks it, using the cover to hightail it out of there with the rest of the team. Once they're in the clear, Cry hastily heals Tino's legs before ordering everyone to follow him. Despite looking cool as hell just moments ago, he is internally panicking because he has zero idea where he's going and desperately wishes someone else would take the lead. Unfortunately, the party completely believes in him, convinced that he has a master plan. After a good amount of aimless wandering, Gil finally asks Cry if they're actually heading toward the exit. Cry stays silent. Tino, ever the loyal believer, speaks up instead, confidently stating that Cry must have some grand scheme in mind, especially since she already memorized the cave layout and knows for a fact that they are absolutely not heading toward the exit. Cry internally sobs, wondering if Tino is secretly pissed at him for sending them into this death trap and is deliberately not helping. Still, he keeps moving forward when, out of nowhere, the rest of the team freezes in place, eyes wide with shock. They all turn to him and ask how he knew they needed to come here. Tino practically vibrates with excitement, declaring that Cry knows all, before dashing ahead with the others straight into the cave. Inside, they stumble upon the missing and injured party. Cry blinks in surprise, because he definitely found them by pure accident. The injured group's leader, Rod, gratefully thanks them for the rescue, but Tino immediately corrects him, saying that Cry was the true mastermind behind their miraculous arrival. Cry quickly tries to claim it was just luck, but his party waves off his fake humility like it's just another sign of his genius. Ruta hands over the little medicine she brought, but it's far from enough, and the injured party is still weak from days without food. Thankfully, Cry remembers that he's carrying his infinite chocolate bag relic. Yes, that's a thing. So he casually hands out chocolates like some kind of dungeon Santa. Scar starts chatting with Rod, saying that he never expected a level 5 party to struggle this much in the cave. Even Gil chimes in, agreeing that while the wolf monsters were tough, they weren't nearly strong enough to wipe out an entire fully equipped level 5 squad. Rod looks surprised at their words before dropping a bombshell. The wolves weren't the ones who wrecked them. In fact, they barely even saw the wolves. Instead, a lone phantom monster appeared, completely solo, and tore them apart. The creature was so strong it could even command the wolf bosses. Rod adds that he genuinely thinks this phantom is even stronger than the Sword Saint himself. A heavy silence falls over the group because everyone in the Imperial capital knows that the Sword Saint is the strongest swordsman alive. Cry, meanwhile, just chomps down on his Snickers. Why? Because he knows the Sword Saint is none other than his childhood friend, Luke. And if this phantom was really that strong, Luke would have long since turned it into mincemeat. Still, Cry acknowledges that this thing is probably way out of his league and deeply regrets not waiting for Pretty Boy Arc to take this mission instead. The entire cave falls silent as everyone turns to Cry for further guidance. Cry, feeling the weight of their expectations crushing his soul, slowly turns away in utter shame, because he has absolutely no idea what to do. At last, Cry hatches a brilliant scheme to stall for time. He casually tells Tino that she is the leader of the party, so it's her duty to lead them. Tino visibly hesitates, unsure of herself, but Cry effortlessly gaslights her into believing that this is all part of her training. He watches in satisfaction as her uncertainty melts away into pure determination. Tino, thrilled that Cry trusts her so much, puffs up her chest and vows that she won't let him down. With their newly crowned leader, the group navigates the winding maze of caves, and before long, they spot the cave's exit in the distance. However, instead of relief, the sight only worsens their anxiety, because the closer they get to escaping, the higher the chances of the phantom ambushing them. Rod, trying to be a hero, steps up and declares that he'll hold the line so the others can make a break for it. Tino immediately shuts him down, saying that no one is staying behind because Cry is with them. That's when it happens. A series of blood-chilling howls echo through the cave, signaling the approach of the wolf bosses. Everyone goes rigid. Then it hits. Tino senses an unbelievably strong presence approaching, and even Cry, who has long since perfected the art of bluffing, can feel it too. His first instinct? Shield Tino. His second instinct? Mentally check his inventory of relics. Among them, the most important one, the relic that gives him extra lives. A quick count in his head, he has 5 lives left, meaning, if he takes 6 hits, he's 100% dead. And then, the phantom finally steps into view. Blade in hand, or a screaming murder. Terror floods the party, but before they can even process how screwed they are, a second figure emerges from the darkness. And that's way too much even for the brave Tino. She trembles violently before diving behind Cry, gripping his coat like her life depends on it, pleading for him to save them. Cry, however, suddenly stops caring, because he recognizes the second figure. And the only thing on his mind is, what the hell is she doing here? Then, without a word, the mysterious person transforms into Ronaldo, and roundhouse kicks the phantom so hard that the monster gets blasted straight into the cave wall like a human-shaped missile. The masked woman strides up to Cry, her voice calm as she asks if everything is all right. Then, without hesitation, she lifts her mask, revealing herself to be none other than Liz. No longer the lowly brat of the past, but now all grown up. The younger adventurers stare in pure awe, unable to comprehend how a mere human could possess this level of strength. Liz, however, is absolutely livid. She glares at them, offended beyond belief. How the hell do you call yourselves monster hunters? She spits. When you don't even know who the grievers are? Then, turning back to Cry, she crosses her arms and sighs. I came all the way to the city to see you, she grumbles. But when I got to your mansion, I heard you ran off to play babysitter in some stupid cave. With an exasperated shake of her head, she waves him off. Move aside. I need to have a word with my student. Cry, knowing better than to argue, steps aside as Liz immediately locks onto Tino, who, up until now, was desperately trying to blend into the background. Unfortunately, Liz has zero intention of letting her off easy. She lays into Tino with zero hesitation, hurling merciless insults at her like a machine gun. Are you kidding me? She scoffs. You're so damn useless that you couldn't even survive this dumb little cave on your own? You had to go crying to Cry for help. Gil, watching from the sidelines, finally reaches his limit. That's enough, he shouts, stepping forward. Big mistake. Liz casually spins around and back-kicks him so hard that he rockets into the cave wall like a human-shaped ragdoll. The brutal roast session continues until Tino completely crumbles, collapsing to her knees in absolute devastation. But Liz still isn't done. Cry, being the spineless coward that he is, watches in silence until Tino falls forward onto all fours and apologizes, her voice barely above a whisper. At that point, even he thinks that Liz is going too far. All right, enough. He finally speaks up, stepping forward. Tino did an incredible job during the mission. That's all thanks to your excellent training, isn't it? And just like that, Liz instantly flips her entire personality like a damn light switch. Oh, she beams, tilting her head cutely. You really think I did a good job, Cry? But before she can fish for more compliments, something horrifying happens. The phantom suddenly emerges from the cave wall. And this time, he isn't alone. Behind him stands a gigantic wolf boss from across the ocean. And in his hands, a goddamn minigun. The absolute audacity of this foreign menace instantly pisses Liz off. Oh hell no. She calmly lowers her mask, cracking her knuckles as the wolf bastard raises his weapon. The minigun roars to life, unleashing a storm of bullets. But Liz moves so fast that time itself slows to a crawl, before the bullets can even reach their targets. She catches every single one of them with effortless precision. Without hesitation, Liz launches herself at the beast. With a single, devastating kick to the skull, the giant wolf bastard drops dead on the spot. She doesn't even flinch as she catches his sword with her bare hands, stopping the attack like it was nothing, only for her to slam him back down with a single, earth-shattering punch. Meanwhile, poor Tino finally reaches her breaking point and bursts into tears. Cry winces, feeling a little bad for her, but he knows damn well that stepping in now is a one-way ticket to getting yeeted like the phantom. Only then does she finally calm down. Without warning, she wraps him in a tight hug, nuzzling against him like a happy cat. I missed you, she hums. Gil walks into the training grounds with a determined look on his face. Without a word, he hands his magic sword to Tino. Give this to Cry, he says. Tino blinks in confusion. Huh? What? Because I'm starting over, he declares, clenching his fists. They all know that's never happening. Tino's mind lingers on something else entirely. She can't stop thinking about the masks that the grievers wear. But why? That question goes unanswered as Cry finds himself with an entirely different problem. As he idly reaches for the small capsule around his neck, he realizes something very, very alarming. The slime that was supposed to be inside it? Gone. This wasn't just any slime either. He got it a year ago from the most talented alchemist in his clan. She had a bad habit of handing her most dangerous creations over to him for safekeeping. And this particular slime? She had explicitly warned him that if he ever let it out, it could obliterate the entire capital city. Cry stares blankly at the empty capsule. Then, in true Cry fashion, he immediately decides that this is not his problem. He simply convinces himself that the slime was never in the capsule to begin with. And just like that, problem solved. Cry heads over to the clan building. Eva immediately informs him that the Treasure Hunter Association is expecting a report on the White Wolf's Denver. Cry waves his hand dismissively and tells her to send Tino instead, since she was technically the acting leader of the expedition. However, Eva calmly informs him that Tino is currently in training with Liz. Cry freezes for a moment before silently mourning the poor girl's fate. Then, out of nowhere, he suddenly asks Eva if anything noteworthy has happened in the capital lately. Eva raises an eyebrow but shakes her head, stating that everything is normal. However, she immediately offers to start investigating just in case. He decides to go check on Tino, casually dumping all the other work onto Eva. As Cry walks away, Eva watches him thoughtfully. Cry finally arrives at the training hall, only to find a crowd of very grumpy hunters gathered outside the gates. A level 6 hunter named Sven immediately approaches him, looking deeply exasperated. He flat out tells Cry to get Liz under control because, apparently, Cry is the only person alive who can tame that absolute menace of a woman. But when the training hall gate swings open, his amusement instantly vanishes. Because there, on the ground, completely motionless, is Tino, and standing over her, towering menacingly with an aura of pure bloodlust, is Liz. Cry springs into action at the last possible second, grabbing Liz's arm before she can obliterate the poor girl. Liz pauses and slowly turns to stare at him. Cry, are you actually stopping me? Cry flashes his most innocent smile. Yep. Liz narrows her eyes, but Cry remains unfazed. Tino, who was literally just lying there dead to the world, suddenly grabs Liz's leg. With tremendous effort, she forces herself to stand, her entire body shaking from exhaustion. Then, with a breathless but determined voice, she looks Liz straight in the eye and says, I can keep going. Liz lights up like a kid in a candy store at Tino's declaration. He immediately turns on his heel and walks out of the training hall before he gets dragged into whatever chaos is about to unfold. Outside, Sven lets out a deep breath and crosses his arms, watching Cry leave with a knowing look. Afterward, they sit down for tea, and Sven mentions that the White Wolf's Den case is still unresolved, with phantoms attacking travelers on the northern road. He asks Cry what they should do, but, unsurprisingly, Cry has no clue. He wishes Ark were here. Ark is better at everything, except maybe plot armor. Then, a brilliant idea strikes him: shove the problem onto Sven and his team. He sends them to the Hunter Association to meet Gark, calling it training. Feeling smug about his quick thinking, Cry happily leaves, but one of Sven's subordinates is less than impressed. He grumbles that, for a leader, Cry never actually does anything useful. Sven warns him not to judge so quickly. Cry is a true monster. Meanwhile, Gark at the Hunter Association has similar thoughts. The situation at the White Wolf's Den may seem unchanged, but Cry wouldn't avoid it without reason. Far away, in an underground lab, an old wizard is also pondering Cry's involvement. A member of the secretive Akashic Tower, he and his organization are researching ways to artificially create treasure vaults by manipulating the Earth's energy. The old wizard is the mastermind behind the plan, including the Phantom's mutation in the White Wolf's Den. However, he never anticipated a high-level hunter like Cry would discover their scheme by entering the treasure vault. Seeing Cry as a threat, the wizard decides they must abandon this location and relocate to continue their research, as they can't confront him without their head of security, who is currently out of town. Meanwhile, Cry has a nightmare about a giant black slime burning the entire city. He wakes up drenched in sweat, the heat feeling all too real. But it turns out the heat was just Liz, who had snuck into his bed. Cry isn't bothered by it, having experienced this before. Liz asks if he's free today, since she's taking a break from work and training, and suggests they go on a play date. Cry agrees, preferring it over work. As they head to the clan building, they're surprised to find Gark, who came after Cry kept avoiding him. Gark tells Cry they need to talk, but Liz stands up to him, telling him to handle his own mess and stop relying on Cry. Gark, furious, complains about her leaving a high-priority mission incomplete, but Liz brushes it off, telling Baldy to stop disturbing their date. They bicker, and Cry feels like he's watching a roast battle between Aminon and Gordon Ramsay. Then, their verbal sparring escalates into an actual fight. Cry asks Gark's assistant to come upstairs so they can talk civilly. He reads a report on the White Wolf's Den and tells the assistant there was nothing notable when he saw it. He expresses concern about something else but quickly realizes he said too much. The assistant presses him for details, but he acts mysterious, saying he can't reveal anything now. He assures her that his clan will cooperate with the association and suggests she speak with Ark, who can help her. Downstairs, Liz and Gark are still clashing, with the reception completely wrecked. Despite being equally strong, Liz keeps gaining the upper hand due to her agility. She mocks Gark, teasing that his joints must be creaking with age. Infuriated, Gark unleashes his full power, but Liz easily dodges and keeps him under control. Cry finally comes downstairs and tells them to stop. While Gark refuses to back down, Liz immediately runs to Cry, clinging to him and suggesting they continue their date. Everyone parts ways, and Cry and Liz head out for their play date. Cry asks her about the level 8 treasure vault she was exploring, and she says it was fun, with the best monsters. However, she grew bored and returned to see him. His mind drifts back to the missing slime, wondering if it will truly endanger the city. Liz notices his somber mood and asks why he's so down. He asks her what she would do if the country were destroyed. Without missing a beat, Liz says she'd run away to a tropical island for a long vacation if the country were destroyed. Cry is taken aback by her carefree attitude, thinking he should learn from her. Suddenly, Liz hands him her bag and rushes off to subdue a random man on the street. Cry panics and asks what she's doing, and she explains that the man was stalking them. Cry tells her she's being paranoid and urges her to let him go. The man panics upon seeing Cry and runs off, which Liz interprets as part of his plan. She praises his acting but then asks why he let the man go. She's curious about their next move, but Cry has no idea what she's talking about. The next day, Cry and Liz head to the most dangerous part of the city, and Liz still thinks it's a date. Cry corrects her, saying he's here on business. Eva had informed him about several people going missing from the slums. While it wouldn't usually concern him, he suspects the missing slime might be involved. To lighten the mood, Cry mentions a new ice cream shop nearby and plans to check it out after handling the mission. Liz is thrilled, but the ice cream shop owner isn't. He's the same man Liz caught before, whom Cry let go. Now he's worried Cry purposefully let him escape and is here to capture him. He's baffled that Cry figured out the ice cream shop is a front for one of the Akashic Tower's research bases. The shopkeeper plans to shut down the shop immediately, but just as he's about to act, the door opens, and a redhead named Sophia walks in. The shopkeeper sees a glimmer of hope. Sophia is in charge of all defense-related matters in their organization. Outside, Liz grows impatient and almost tries to blow the door off, but Cry stops her, suggesting the shop might not be open today. She reluctantly agrees, and they head back to their clan, much to the shopkeeper's relief. Back in his office, Cry asks Liz if she knows when the alchemist Citri will return from the level 8 treasure vault. Liz says it may take some time, and Cry just hopes she gets back before the slime wreaks havoc on the city. At that moment, Eva enters and informs Cry that the Hunter Association has assembled a team to investigate the White Wolves Denver. They're going all out, even sending a relic expert to uncover anything new. Cry considers it a big deal but remains unconcerned, as he has no plans to get involved. Meanwhile, the shopkeeper reaches the Akashic Tower's headquarters and informs everyone that Cry found him. He's terrified, unable to fathom why Cry saw through their perfect disguise and then didn't take any action. The others share his confusion. They turn to Sophia for advice, and she suggests they confront Cry and his clan head-on. Everyone is shocked, but she assures them they have a chance of winning, even against an enemy at level 8. Sophia is confident that the security system she's built can defeat Cry's clan, and the old mage gives her permission to proceed, knowing they can't avoid this fight forever. The next day, the First Steps clan building is packed with adventurers. When Tino enters, she's shocked by the crowd and asks a man what's going on. He explains that they've gathered to investigate the White Wolves' den, and Tino thinks it's a bit excessive. The man then mentions that Cry had planned to send Ark there first, and Tino is even more surprised. Sending a level 7 hunter like Ark to a level 3 treasure vault indicates the situation is far more serious than anyone expected. That's why the association and their clan have gathered a large group of treasure hunters to cover for Ark. Soon, Cry and Eva arrive, and Cry jokes if all these people are here for a party. Eva explains that they're investigating the White Wolves' den. Since Cry had requested Ark to handle it, she assembled a team to substitute for him. Cry is shocked because he had only mentioned Ark due to Ark being Mr. Perfect, someone who does everything flawlessly. He realizes deploying so many people will cost him a fortune, so he suggests reducing the number by half. The hunters panic, thinking they're going to die now. Eva reassures them, saying Cry must have something important to tell them, though, of course, he doesn't. Cry tries to downplay the mission's difficulty, but no one believes him. He then turns to Eva and asks about the hunter's rewards. She informs him that Chief Gark has provided additional funds to ensure everyone is well paid. With the money sorted, Cry tells the hunters to do as they wish, and they're relieved that they can all go to the vault together. Just then, Liz arrives, calling the hunters a bunch of sissies who are too weak to even face challenges and get stronger. She jumps up to Cry's side, declaring that she'll take the mission and just needs Tino to accompany her. Cry immediately refuses, not wanting to risk Tino's life or lower the morale of the others. He insists that everyone here will go on the mission. Eva then tells Cry to take command of the group, which catches him off guard. The others, however, are relieved, thinking their safety is assured with the clan master leading them. Realizing he can't refuse entirely, Cry says he will join them later, and until then, Sven, who is already at the White Wolves' den, will take command. Before they leave, Cry warns one of the hunters to watch out for slime monsters in case they show up in the vault. The treasure hunters head out, unaware that the vault is actually the Akashic Tower's base. The tower members debate how to react, with Sophia seeing an opportunity to strike while the hunters aren't prepared. She boasts that her defense system is designed to handle even the most powerful hunters, and only the combined force of the Grievers party can overcome it. However, with only Cry, Liz, and the alchemist Citri near the capital, she's already devised plans to defeat Cry and Liz. Citri remains a wild card, as Sophia doesn't have a foolproof strategy against her. But Sophia has a personal vendetta against Citri and vows to crush her herself. Sophia reveals that Citri discovered their master's theory about creating new treasure vaults and has been attempting to replicate it herself. She insists that they cannot allow her to succeed and asks the wizard for permission to use their full firepower to stop Citri. The wizard grants her permission and appoints her as the commander of their forces for this battle. However, his second-in-command doesn't seem thrilled about the decision. Meanwhile, Sven and his party find nothing unusual, though he still believes Cry sent them here for a specific reason. Suddenly, he receives a call and orders his teammate to blow the emergency whistle to alert the other treasure hunters. Once outside, Sven informs them of Cry's warning about a slime monster, and the hunters are frustrated, feeling they're taking orders from someone who's not even present. Sven insists they trust Cry's judgment and shares a story about a flower-watching party Cry once organized, telling everyone to bring their weapons. When Cry made the toast, a treasure vault materialized behind him, and everyone realized Cry had predicted it. The hunters are surprised, and Sven reaffirms that the information Cry provides is more valuable than anything they might find themselves. Back in Cry's office, Liz is pestering him to give her something to do so she can show off her fighting skills in front of him. Cry, already irritated, wonders how much longer he has to tolerate her before the hunters can resolve the issue at the White Wolf's den, allowing him to step in at the end. Just then, the alchemist Citri arrives, telling Cry she's here to help him deal with an incredibly powerful and clever organization that could soon pose a global threat. Cry promptly kicks Liz and Tino out of the office as Citri explains the details about the Akashic Tower. Meanwhile, across the city, Gark dons his battle armor, preparing to enter the treasure vault and prove that his glory days aren't over. Gark's assistant tries to stop him, worried that he'll pull muscles and hurt his back, but suddenly, Citri arrives to speak with him, sharing crucial information about their true enemies. Meanwhile, back in Cry's office, he reflects on Citri's journey. She was one of their circle of friends who wasn't overwhelmingly strong and had always known she wouldn't be able to fight on the front lines. She sought a way to support her friends in other ways, and it was Cry who had suggested she become an alchemist. That was how she eventually became one of the greatest alchemists. Citri informs Cry that the slime she created has the ability to rapidly adapt and evolve to its surroundings, but it's an unstable, failed prototype. However, she's ensured it won't target either her or Cry. Cry panics, fearing the rest of the city is still in danger. Citri, trusting him completely, believes the slime must have escaped from the capsule and slipped through the drainage. Cry feels a bit relieved that she's so trusting, but then Citri reveals there's something even more dangerous than the runaway slime that they need to discuss. Meanwhile, at the White Wolf's den, Sven learns from the reinforcements that Cry won't be joining them anytime soon, and that Liz was also not allowed to come. Sven is secretly relieved about not having to deal with the wild Liz and decides to give the treasure hunters a pep talk. He asks if they're prepared to fight a slime. The hunters respond, dismissing slimes as easy opponents, something even kids could handle. Sven curses Cry for not giving them more useful information, knowing this would happen. Just then, one particularly ugly hunter decides to go into the vault, dismissing strategies as for weaklings. Everyone mocks the ugly hunter, and Sven sarcastically says that he can gladly become the first victim of the monsters, teaching everyone a valuable lesson with his death. The ugly moron calls them a bunch of sissies before heading into the vault. Just then, a timid voice asks a question. The speaker, a redhead resembling Sophia, the defense head of the Akashic Tower, claims to be an alchemist from Cry's clan. She reveals that she worked alongside Citri on slime research and pulls out a vial of medicine, claiming it can kill any slime, no matter how powerful. Sven then rallies the treasure hunters, telling them to aim for glory but return alive. The investigation begins, and by the end of the day, they find only the wolf phantoms, which are slightly stronger than normal. Sven wonders if Cry was wrong this time, but thinks it would be a relief if that were the case. Just then, the ugly hunter returns, grumbling that if everyone around him wasn't so afraid of slimes, the mission would already be over. He heads into the forest to water a tree and curses Cry for giving orders without having the guts to be on site. Suddenly, he hears a strange sound and investigates. He's shocked to find two men and a massive chained wolf beast. The men are from the Akashic Tower, and they are preparing to implant Hulk's nut inside the wolf to make it super strong and wreak havoc on the hunters, exactly as Sophia had planned. Hugo realizes something's wrong when he sees the giant syringe and rushes forward to take down the two men. He knocks out one, but the other retaliates with fireballs. Hugo blocks them effortlessly and then slaps him before lifting the tall man to throw him around and ask questions later. The tall man asks if Hugo was sent by Cry, but Hugo responds that this is all him. As Hugo is beating the tall guy, his partner injects the power-boosting serum into the wolf, causing it to melt on the outside but become even more dangerous. The two men explain that the monster will now seek the strongest mana nearby and absorb it to grow stronger. The wolf slime instantly drains the mana from the two wizards. Realizing the situation is escalating, Hugo blows the warning whistle to alert everyone. Sven quickly orders the hunters to get ready to fight when he hears the whistle, and they arm themselves, gathering outside the forest. Soon, Hugo stumbles out, severely injured and missing an arm. He tells them that Cry was right. The forest is home to a powerful slime monster. Just then, the transformed wolf phantom, now a slime, emerges from the woods. Sven shoots an arrow at it, aiming for its legs, but the arrow does no damage. The magicians unleash fire and ice spells, but the slime remains unaffected. Meanwhile, Sven and the healer check on Hugo, who explains that he saw two men injecting the wolf with something that turned it into a slime. The wolf slime emerges from the barrage of magic unharmed, and Sven decides to try physical attacks. He rapidly fires half a dozen arrows at the slime, but they have no effect. Sven is stunned when neither magical nor physical attacks work on the slime wolf. However, he refuses to back down and tells the hunters to keep fighting for as long as possible. The wolf slime begins attacking them, but Sven instructs everyone to stay out of its range, as it's slow. He then rushes to Not Sophia, asking for the anti-slime chemical she had. She explains that the slime will self-destruct if it comes into contact with the medicine, and Sven takes it upon himself to ensure this happens. Sven starts luring the wolf slime, but it leaps at him suddenly. He quickly plants the vial on the ground and dodges to the side. The slime lands on the vial, breaking it, and as it touches the chemical, a series of explosions erupt inside its body. Everyone assumes this will end the fight, but the wolf slime devours the explosions and continues fighting. Disheartened, Sven realizes that the wolf wasn't exactly a slime after all, or it would have perished. The armored guy beside him points out that Cry described it as a slime-like creature, not a true slime, and Sven curses Cry and the Grievers for their misleading information. Just then, Citri arrives, eager to help. She had begged Cry to allow her to lead the investigation into the White Wolf's den. After quickly analyzing the wolf slime, she deduces that the reason they can't harm it is due to its dense mana, which acts as a barrier. Intrigued by the creature, she identifies that the wolf phantom must have melted and turned into a slime as a result of a failed experiment. Approaching the monster with surprising calmness, Citri dodges its attacks and realizes that it's hunting people with the most mana to restore its body. She sympathizes with the creature, thinking it's a tragic result of someone's experiment gone wrong. Deciding to end its suffering, she throws a vial at the slime wolf and asks Sven to shoot it. Sven, still processing everything, watches as Gark arrives fully armored, catching him off guard. Citri quickly explains that she had asked Gark for a lift, as she couldn't just run all the way here like Liz could. Although it clears up some of Sven's questions, it doesn't fully answer everything, prompting Citri to elaborate. She leads them to a camp where she begins to reveal details about the Akashic Tower and its elusive leader, Master Magus. As she explains, Sven and the other hunters express their disbelief, mentioning that Magus had been banned from the imperial capital long ago. Citri, however, dismisses their skepticism, pointing out that bans don't stop people like Magus, especially when they operate in secret. She reveals that the White Wolf's den is actually the base of the Akashic Tower, and Not Sophia confirms that they likely have valuable equipment hidden here. Citri knows her well and agrees, explaining that Akashic Tower is preparing for battle to protect their research. Citri vows to stop Akashic Tower and its dangerous experiments, urging everyone to follow her as they head to confront the threat. She acknowledges that she's not Cry, but she promises to give her best effort. Sven's assistant remarks on Citri's courage, noting that she uses her perceived weakness as a weapon, and in some ways, she's as much of a monster as the other Grievers. Meanwhile, Liz, frustrated, grinds against Cry's lap, begging him to let her go help Citri because she considers herself the weakest. Cry firmly refuses to indulge her, his patience running thin. Far below in the depths of the White Wolf's den, the Akashic Tower's hideout stands ready for what's to come. The big shots inside the Akashic Tower's hideout are reading Sophia's instructions, which detail the release of the captured phantoms. However, the men argue against it, believing that releasing the phantoms one by one would give the hunters an advantage. They dismiss Sophia's authority, thinking that a woman couldn't possibly understand military strategy. Ignoring her orders, they decide to release all the phantoms at once, underestimating the threat they might pose. Outside the cave, Citri and the adventurers have captured two members of the Akashic Tower. Citri, ever the strategist, promises to let them go free if they reveal the location of their master, Magus. However, the two men are loyal to a fault, ready to sacrifice their lives for their leader. Citri slyly uses this opportunity to confirm that Magus is indeed the mastermind behind the operation. When they refuse to talk, Citri pulls out a truth serum. The government officials present protest, citing that using such substances to manipulate people's minds is against the law. Citri, unbothered, challenges them, asking if they care more about the law than capturing Magus. Gark backs her up, urging the officials to let her do her job. With a grin, Citri reassures everyone, claiming the truth serum is just an exotic fruit-flavored drink and that she's only playing mind games. She takes a sip, showing her confidence in handling the situation. Suddenly, a deafening roar shakes the camp, and everyone rushes outside to see a giant red wolf slime charging toward them. This new version is faster and more dangerous than the previous one. Citri quickly assesses the situation, stating that they need to analyze the monster's magical barriers to defeat it. For that, she needs the tankers to take the brunt of the wolf slime's attacks and endure long enough for her to study its weaknesses. Despite their fear, one of the tankers steps forward and follows Citri's orders, bracing for the wolf slime's attacks. The monster quickly sends the tanker's shield flying with a powerful blow. Citri then directs the magicians to attack the wolf slime from all directions. As they engage, she realizes that the slime's magic barrier renders it immune to physical attacks, making it difficult to land a hit. Citri's mind races as she tries to figure out how to deal with this powerful creature when, suddenly, a blue wolf slime enters the scene. Panic sets in as the adventurers consider retreating, but Citri, unfazed, remarks that she never expected Akashic Tower to have such incompetent people in charge, given that it's an organization of researchers. She orders everyone to stop attacking and fall back to safety. As the two wolf slimes face off, they begin attacking each other, much to the astonishment of the onlookers. Citri explains that the wolf slimes are drawn to the person with the most mana, causing them to fight amongst themselves rather than focusing on their intended target. Soon, more wolf slimes appear, and the battle turns chaotic as they continue to attack one another. The two captured Akashic Tower members watch in disbelief, realizing that their supposed ultimate weapon is failing miserably. Back inside the Akashic Tower base, Magus is furious, berating his subordinates for their incompetence. He can't believe they allowed the monsters to fight each other without intervening. Sophia is in contact with the base through a communication device and informs them that while they can't stop the monsters now, they still have some tricks up their sleeves. However, Sophia warns that the situation outside has changed with Citri and Gark joining the hunters. Magus panics upon hearing Gark's name, but Sophia remains calm and insists that they still have a chance to win. She explains that retreating is no longer an option since the hunters have two of their men in captivity. Even if they don't talk, Citri will eventually learn the location of their base. Sophia proposes a new strategy. They should lure the hunters to their base before they can prepare and then destroy them all using a secret weapon, Magus's trump card. Sophia, knowing how dangerous the situation has become, decides to deploy her powerful beast, the Malice Eater, to crush the hunters. However, since it is still in its training phase, she needs someone to control it. She turns to Flick, the one responsible for the previous failure, offering him a chance to redeem himself. Flick, taunted by her words, swears to take control of the beast and use it to draw the hunters to the base, determined to prove himself to Magus. Meanwhile, back at the treasure hunters' camp, Not Sophia watches Citri as she works tirelessly, reflecting on how Citri has always been a genius, constantly driven and unmatched in her determination. This motivation, while inspiring, has also made Not Sophia feel insecure, always standing in Citri's shadow. Her thoughts are interrupted when Sven approaches, commenting on the failure of her anti-slime medicine, which didn't work on the wolf slime due to its true nature, not being a slime at all. He also chides Cry for not giving them more information about the monster, making the situation even more difficult. Sven then shifts the topic, noticing that the two prisoners are staring at Not Sophia. He teases her, asking if she's the most attractive woman in camp, but Not Sophia brushes it off, claiming not to know why they're looking at her. Sven reassures her to come to him if anything happens, then steps away to handle other matters. Meanwhile, Citri continues her analysis, using her expertise to study the terrain and mana flow. She suddenly figures out the location of Akashic Tower's base. When she confronts the prisoners with her findings, their panicked reactions confirm her theory. The prisoners, recognizing Citri, mistakenly call her Sophia, thinking they are addressing the redhead alchemist who they believe is their savior. Citri calmly explains that Sophia is her arch-nemesis and a former student of Magus, adding that she has been trying to track her down for years without success. As Citri reveals her plan to capture both Sophia and Magus, she stresses the importance of destroying Akashic Tower once and for all. The treasure hunters listen intently, understanding that this confrontation will be crucial, and Citri vows to finally settle the score with Sophia, once and for all. The scene is chaotic as Flick boasts about his power, riding his flying lion monster, and preparing to unleash his ultimate, lightning spell on Citri and the treasure hunters. With a dramatic strike, he shoots a bolt of lightning directly at Citri, knocking out everyone in the vicinity. He believes that with this spell, he's finally proven his superiority over Sophia and will impress Master Magus. However, to his shock, Citri stands up unharmed, revealing her resilience and experience with far worse spells from high-level treasure vaults. Flick is stunned, his confidence shattered, as he realizes his lightning strike was far less effective than he thought. While Citri heals everyone with the water gun, back at the base, Magus fumes over Flick's failure to bring all the monsters. His subordinates inform him that Flick's ultimate attack was useless, and the hunters are still advancing. They suggest Magus escape while they hold them off, but he disagrees, declaring that they still have a trump card in Sophia. He insists they cannot abandon their base until both are lost. Magus, moved by duty, orders his disciples to fight with all their strength, and they swear they will win. Meanwhile, Citri and the others locate the entrance to Akashic Tower's base. Sven is hesitant to go in without preparation, but Gark assures them he's all the preparation they need. He asks Citri and Sven to trust him as they charge into the cave, determined to show Liz he still has it. As they approach, Akashic Tower's members are ready to engage on their flying lions, but it's a diversion while Magus activates his trump card. He presses a button, and a stone statue shatters, revealing a golem that emerges. Magus declares the golem as the Akashic Tower's greatest weapon, confident the enemies won't defeat it. The golem steps outside the cave, where Gark prepares for battle. The golem swings its massive sword, forcing Gark to use all his strength to block. Seeing their best fighter cornered, the Akashic Tower members decide to go on the offensive. Flying high above Sven and the others, the two prisoners try to cut the ropes tying their hands. One of the flying lions attacks Sven, injuring him, but he heals and encourages his friends to keep morale high. Things seem grim, but then Liz arrives, taking down a flying lion with super speed. Energized by her presence, Sven rallies the team to charge. Meanwhile, Cry and Tino are alone in the forest. Cry feels uneasy about Liz leaving to fight, and now he's without a reliable bodyguard. Tino senses a presence and warns Cry, offering to deal with it, but Cry assumes they're just wild animals. However, the presence is the escaped prisoners from the Akashic Tower. They're confused by Cry's decision to let them go, unaware he doesn't know who they are. As Cry prepares to continue, his night vision lenses lose power, and he asks Tino to lead the way. Back on the battlefield, Liz is easily defeating the flying lions and questions how the other hunters are struggling with them. Liz calls Citri a weakling, and Citri asks what she's doing here. Liz explains that she begged Cry to come, then dives back into the action. Moving like lightning, Liz attacks the golem, pushing it back and causing some damage. Gark doesn't want to be outdone, so he attacks with his ice axe, freezing the golem at the point of impact. The golem falls, but then powers back up and reboots, going on the offensive. Gark swings his axe again, but the golem dodges and leaps high into the air. Everyone is shocked by how agile the golem is, reminding them of Ansem, one of the grievers, who is even more agile. Liz wonders if the golem was modeled after her friend, but she focuses on defeating it. She leaps to attack, but the golem detaches its hand to reveal a cannon and fires at her. The blast grazes Liz's belly, forcing her to back off since she struggles with long-distance attacks. As the golem keeps shooting, Citri realizes that destroying it might be impossible with just Liz's offensive power and decides they need to deplete its battery. Liz takes offense and goes all out, landing a powerful combo that knocks the golem down. Gark targets its foot to finish it off, but the golem uses thrusters to fly away. Liz gives up on trying to beat it, just as Cry arrives and asks how they're doing. Cry isn't fazed by the giant golem in front of him, and everyone believes the fight will end soon with the strongest hunter now in play. The golem flies toward Cry, and Tino clings to him in fear, but Cry remains clueless, and suddenly, the golem is repelled before it can hit him. It powers down and crashes into the wall. Everyone asks what secret move Cry used, but Cry admits he didn't even see the golem since his night vision lenses had run out of mana. He asks Tino why everyone's acting like something major just happened. The fight ends with that, and the treasure hunters raid the Akashic Tower's base, taking everything they can. Cry gets a report from Citri, who thanks him for sending Liz to help at the right time, but she still plans to destroy the Akashic Tower personally. Meanwhile, the two escaped prisoners meet with Magus, who fled the base after their loss. The prisoners are certain the redhead alchemist among the hunters is Sophia, and they warn Magus she might cause trouble. However, Magus, having lost the will to fight against Cry, decides to leave the Empire and orders his men to call Sophia back. Cry then attends a meeting with Gark and a government official, who wanted to share everything he knows about the Akashic Tower. Cry honestly tells them he knows nothing and directs them to Citri, as she was in charge. The official grows nervous at the mention of her name. 3 years ago, Citri was demoted to rank 2 and lost her title after being implicated in a massive jailbreak. However, Gark intervened to prove her innocence, and since then, government officials have avoided her. Meanwhile, at the makeshift base of Akashic Tower, Magus's disciples bring not Sophia to him. She insists she's not Sophia, but when a flying lion reacts aggressively toward her, Magus realizes she's telling the truth. Just then, the real Sophia arrives with a bottle of wine, and everyone is confused. Sophia, unfazed by her doppelganger, points out that while they look alike, there are clear differences. She then removes her wig and robe, revealing herself as Citri. Magus, shocked, demands to know why she's impersonating Sophia, but Citri calmly states that she is the same Sophia he knows. The others panic, thinking Citri has betrayed them, but she explains that she joined the Akashic Tower because she admired Magus's work and wanted to see results. However, she insists that it's time to stop. Citri reveals that Cry had intentionally let his men go and delayed taking action, sending a warning to her to stop and return to him. She assures Magus that she didn't spill anything, but Cry has the power to see through lies. She says that he set up everything so that they could try out their research against high-level hunters, and it was a success for the most part. When the golem attacked him last night, she stepped in to stop it, because she didn't want it to be obliterated. She tells everyone that the research has been confiscated and they will all be arrested, but she will keep the research going. Since the person called Sophia never existed, she will never be found, and all the blame will fall on Magus. Citri then walks to her assistant, telling her that her unique red hair stood out in a crowd, so she borrowed her appearance. The girl starts crying and collapses, and then the disciples of Akashic Tower try to attack her. Citri commands the flying lion to come to her aid, and everyone backs away. Magus, however, uses a powerful fire attack, which kills the lion, but Citri is unharmed because she prepared for this. She had found the Citri slime that Cry lost, and it absorbed the attack to protect her. The slime suddenly starts eating the lion's body as Citri explains that it is her best work because it can constantly grow by eating mana. Magus panics on hearing this because it means that the slime has the potential to devour the entire earth, and Citri says that she just wanted to test its performance against a powerful mage like him. Suddenly, his disciples activate a smoke bomb and tell him to escape while they hold back the golden slime. However, as Magus is running away, he bumps into someone really muscular at the door and falls down the stairs. Magus freaks out on seeing it, and then Citri comes there, telling him that she wanted to become strong to match the rest of her friends, but creating golems is time-consuming and expensive, so she decided to create a pet chimera. For that, she broke a high-security prison and used all the escaped criminals as a raw material to make this chimera. Magus realizes that he is faced with the most ruthless person he has ever known, and Citri puts on her mask as she says that he will become an excellent raw material for her. The chimera kills the old man, and everyone else is arrested after Citri erases their memories. She also erases the memories of her assistant and reports to Cry that everything has ended smoothly. She says that she will be more careful in handling the materials next time, but he doesn't really understand what she is talking about. Soon after that, Cry and Citri go to meet Gark and the government representatives about the items confiscated from the Akashic Tower's base. Cry says that he would like to have the Akashic Golem and the other thing whose name rhymes with water. The government officials are shocked, and even though they understand why Cry is asking for the golem, they ask him why does he want the malice eaters. Cry has very sharp ears, just like Helen Keller, and he still hears eaters as water. He tells the government officials that he obviously wants to drink it, and everyone begins worrying about his mental health. In the end, the officials agree to give him malice eaters, but not the golem, and Citri thanks Cry for negotiating on her behalf. She goes to retrieve the fearsome flying lions, and in the meantime, Gark approaches Cry with worrying news. He tells him about a party of treasure hunters called Crashing Lightning that have recently arrived in the capital. They are led by a famous level 7 hunter named Arnold Hale. But Cry doesn't know about him and asks if that is the guy who was in the Terminator series. Gark just laughs at him and says that Arnold is said to have killed a dragon. He pats Cry on the back, telling him not to stir any trouble with Arnold, but even his light pat was enough to destroy one of Cry's safe rings. The old man leaves with that, and then Cry notices a poster for the Grand Relic auction that is going to happen soon. He really wants to take part in it because it has the best and rarest relics, but he doesn't really have that much money in the bank right now. He wonders if he should borrow some money from Citri when he has not even returned what he borrowed the last time when a receptionist approaches him. She introduces herself as Chloe, Gark's niece, and remarks that her uncle seemed to be in a good mood just now. Cry tells her that they were talking about a new guy named Almond Oil. Citri arrives there just then, and they head out, passing the new guy Arnold and his party on the way. Once they reach the clan, Citri reveals a cute baby malice eater, whom she has taught not to harm her and Cry. The baby jumps on Cry to play with him, but even the playful touches from it are enough to activate Cry's safe rings. Luckily, Citri takes it away before it can go through them all, and then decides to name the pup Gatorade because Cry thought it was something to drink. Cry is not worried about that misunderstanding anymore because he needs to charge his relics, but he learns that his friend Lucia, who is the mage of their party, can't return home because they are facing a strong boss monster in the dungeon. Speaking of that, Citri gives him a special relic, which can save one spell for emergencies. He already has one, but Citri asks him to keep this and maybe wear it on the ring finger of his left hand. After that, she gives him a massage that she enjoys more than him, and when Cry tells her about his relics being out of mana, she asks him to leave everything to her. She gathers all the treasure hunters and tells them that they have a special training in magic cultivation techniques today that Cry devised. She tells them that it is going to be a hard training, but those who complete it will become mages on the same level as Lucia. Everyone is shocked to hear this, but since Citri said Cry came up with this method, they believe him. Suddenly, two elves named Lapis and Chris rise up to challenge the new methods. Chris looks down on Cry, telling him to greet her sister properly because she is much better than him in everything. Lapis asks her to behave, but even she doesn't hold a very high opinion of Cry. He knows that elves are long-lived and have exceptional talents when it comes to magic, so they look down on everyone who is not a great mage. Lapis asks Citri if she is sure that this training can make anyone into a mage like Lucia, whom even the elves respect, and Citri doubles down, saying that Lucia became so strong because of similar training. Suddenly, a mage named Marietta, who is from Sven's party, volunteers to go first, even though she is nervous about the training. However, it turns out to be a bit disappointing because she just has to charge Cry's relics, which is surprisingly hard because the ring doesn't seem to get fully charged, no matter how much mana Marietta pours in it. Citri tells her to keep going, and after straining a lot, she finally manages to fully charge the ring. Citri then tells her that there is more where that came from, and makes her charge the magic rings one by one. Eventually, Marietta passes out because of exhaustion, and Citri tells everyone that most people's mana capacity reaches a limit in their teens, and they can't grow beyond that. However, if they can exhaust all the mana in their body, there is a chance to increase the upper limit of their mana by a small percentage. The hunters complain that this method is not practical because it takes a long time for them to recharge their mana, even for elves, but Citri has the solution for that. She takes out a special medicine and pours a few drops in Marietta's mouth, making her wake up with a jolt and then pass out from the horrible taste of the medicine. Citri tells everyone that Marietta's mana capacity has increased with this, and it has been recharged as well. She says that this is how Lucia became so strong, explaining that she was not born with the overwhelming power, and she worked hard and drank this medicine, a lot to reach where she is now. Everyone is shocked to learn this, even Cry, who never knew that Lucia had to go through this after charging his relics. After that, Citri begins to taunt the elves, asking if they cannot do what Lucia did despite being a race that is proud of their magic. The two elves take up the challenge, and Citri calls her Chimera with a bag containing all of Cry's relics. Chris begins charging them, one by one, and the other mages from the clan also get to work so that they can become stronger. After that, Cry and Citri go to Liz's place, and this shameless bitch comes out of the bath because she forgot her towel outside. Citri closes Cry's eyes so that he doesn't see his sister naked before her, and after a bit of tussle, Cry tells Liz that he was planning to throw a party to celebrate her and Citri's safe return. Liz wants to hug Cry for that, but Citri manages to hold her back, and then Cry tells Tino that she is also going to come with them. They go to a restaurant to eat and drink, and Liz and Citri keep arguing with each other all the time. Citri challenges her sister to a drinking game and spikes her drink while she is not looking. However, Cry decides to switch their jugs, and Citri has to drink the spiked drink. She gets hammered really quickly because of that and begins lashing out at Cry for considering her nothing more than a walking purse. She asks him if he even remembers how much money he owes her, and then says that he can always pay it back with his body. Before she can make a move on him, Liz pounces on her and pins her to the ground. Suddenly, they hear a commotion, and it turns out that one of the treasure hunters bumped into the guy called Arnold, who has a short temper to match his PP size. His lackeys tell everyone to treat him with respect because he is a dragon slayer and a level 7 treasure hunter. And both Liz and Citri are curious about him now. Arnold is on his high horse, and he tells the innkeeper to bring him some booze and girls. Suddenly, Liz walks towards him, saying that she is here to fulfill both his requests. Arnold calls her a brat and tells her to head home, but to his shock, Liz pours the drink on his head. Everyone is horrified at this, and then suddenly, the furious Liz smashes the jug on his head and then stomps on it, calling him weak and undeserving of being a rank 7. Arnold is too furious to even make a move, but then Cry comes there and takes Liz away before apologizing to Arnold about her drunk behavior. The next day, Eva tells Cry more about the hunter Liz assaulted yesterday and says that their group was clearly at fault for attacking without provocation. She says that they should apologize to Arnold and his party because he indeed defeated a lightning dragon, and they should not make him an enemy. Cry just hopes that the hit from Liz was enough to make the guy forget anything, but he asks Eva to set up a meeting with Arnold and asks Dark to act as a mediator. Talking about Arnold and the lightning dragon, Cry suddenly says that the dragon would definitely taste heavenly if grilled properly. Eva is shocked to hear that because the entire body of a dragon can be used as precious ingredients, and no one in their right mind would eat it. Cry tells her that Citri once cooked a dragon steak for him, and it was really nice. He keeps rambling about how good lightning dragons must taste, and then tells Eva not to take him seriously because he is just craving meat. On the other hand, Arnold's lackeys are pissed about the treatment at the bar, but he can tell that Liz was really strong. He doesn't want to let the matter slide so easily, so he takes his crew to the guild. The receptionist there asks them if they are here to file a complaint because she heard that they got beaten badly in the bar. The fake-ass Jossack-style guy tells her that they are not here for filing a complaint, but to learn the name of the bitch who attacked their boss. Just then, Gark comes there and tells Arnold that the girl he is looking for is called Liz and her nickname is Stifled Shadow because of how fast and silent her movements are. Arnold asks him who the hell is he, and Gark introduces himself. He says that he knew that Arnold's party would come to the city soon, and he had already warned Liz's guardian, but apparently he forgot. This makes the lackeys even more furious that someone forgot about their boss, and then Gark tells them that they must have seen Cry at the bar. He tells them that despite his easygoing attitude, Cry is actually a level 8 treasure hunter called Thousand Tricks. The lackeys are terrified to hear this, but Gark assures them that Cry doesn't tolerate bullying, so as long as they promise not to be naughty, he will keep Liz under control. He then says that Cry has actually sent a message for them, and then takes a small slip out of his pocket. It reads that lightning dragon must be really delicious, and Arnold should bring him some. Gark leaves with that, but now Arnold is furious. He takes the message as an insult and a challenge, and tells his men to get ready for a fight. Meanwhile, in his office, Cry tells Eva that the debt he owes Citri has reached 10 digits, and she freaks out on hearing that. Cry waits for her to calm down, and then says that Citri has suggested 2 solutions. The first solution is to throw her in jail, which will erase the point of the debt. But Cry obviously can't do that. The second solution is for him to take her as a bride, because then it would be a case of family expense, and there would not be a debt. Cry jokes that maybe marriage is his only way to erase his debt, but then tells Eva not to be angry because he will pay everything back. She tells him that if he just doesn't rack up more debt, he can pay Citri with the income he gets from his party. But that is going to be hard since the grand auction is coming soon. At the same time, Arnold's lackeys are trying to find information about Cry, but all anyone can tell them is how he has the ability to see the future, and he doesn't even go on a mission anymore because they are too boring. They return to their base and tell this to Arnold, who says that this is all bullshit and people made these things up because they didn't know the truth. However, he can't deny those rumors since Cry is a level 8 hunter after all. He thinks that he must be a strategist who achieved that rank by commanding his party. Arnold doesn't think that Cry is weak, but he is confident that he can't match a level 7 fighter like himself. Meanwhile, Cry is trying to forget his debt by enjoying the sun, when suddenly, Tino leaps into his balcony because she thought he was smiling at her. She eagerly asks him what can she do for him, and Cry jokingly tells her that he needs some money. She is dejected to hear that, but still offers to lend him some money from her savings. Cry says that he won't take anything from her because he owes a 10-figure debt to Citri. Tino is shocked to hear that, but as Cry tells her that the debt can just go away if he marries Citri, she immediately coughs blood, thinking that Citri is trying to monopolize him. Cry tells her that it was a joke, and then asks her to come on a walk to lighten their mood. On the way, Tino suggests that he go to some high-level vault and find some relics that will earn him a lot of money, but Cry doesn't want to die trying that. At the same time, Arnold and his party are looking for his clan building, and they are shocked when they see him alone in front of them. Cry remembers them from the bar, and the men get ready to beat him up. Tino tells them to bring it on, but they ask her to step aside because they have no business with her. Suddenly, Cry apologizes to the party for what Liz did, and he is ready to go down on his knees if they would like it. Tino can't let that happen, but Cry shuts his mouth, saying that they should really not fight here. Tino frees herself and then tells the party that Cry is not fighting them because he is worried that he might accidentally kill weaklings like them. Cry tells her to stop, but she doesn't and keeps insulting Arnold's crew, which makes him really angry. He shoots down Cry's offer to end things peacefully, and then Cry says that if they are going to fight anyway, they should do it boldly. He goes to the middle of the main street and gains everyone's attention, hoping that there would be some of his clansmen there, but there are none. One of the guys tells him to stop wasting time, and Cry tells him to be patient, calling him Hunter A. The man is shocked, because apparently that is his real name, and he asks Cry how did he know it. Arnold tells it to stop falling in the enemy's trap. He confronts Cry, saying that he knows that he rose to level 8 through luck and the power of his friends, and he is really weak by himself. Tino takes offense to that, and tells Arnold that she will not let anyone slander her master. Arnold sees the fire in her eyes, but he knows that she is far away from her potential right now. Tino turns to Cry, asking him permission to fight for his honor, and this buffoon tells her to go ahead. Even Arnold is nervous because he thought Cry would do the smart thing and stop the girl, but he says that since Tino wants it, he will respect her wishes. Tino starts attacking Arnold, who just blocks her attacks. Meanwhile, Cry looks around to see if any strong person from his clan is coming. Tino tells him to look at her, and Cry begins cheering for her, saying that she will surely win if she puts in some effort. This makes Arnold furious, and he slams Tino to the ground, asking Cry who the hell does he think he is. Cry tells him that he is no one special, but he won't let anyone harm his people. He takes out the unique relic that Lucia gave him, and decides to use it to subdue Arnold. He remembers the time he asked Lucia to create a wide-range spell that could subdue an enemy, without harming them, and also didn't target any bystanders. Lucia told him that it was an impossible request, but in the end, she came up with just the spell Cry needed. Now, he uses that gravity magic to pin Arnold and his men to the ground. Arnold asks if he is a mage, but Cry says that it is not important what he is. He frees Tino from the effect of his spell, and then tells Arnold that if he wants to fight him again, he must follow the proper procedures since he is challenging a clan master. He tells him to defeat the 3 strongest parties in his clan before he challenges him again, and those parties are led by powerhouses like Ark and Sven. Arnold curses him, but then he loses consciousness from the spell. After that, Cry takes Tino out for some desserts, and she feels bad for not being able to meet his expectations. He tells her to not mind it, but she asks him to tell her the location of a vault with precious relics so that she can retrieve them for him and pay off some of his debt. But he doesn't know what to tell her. The next day, Arnold and his men are drinking in frustration after the humiliation at Cry's hands. They are furious that he repeatedly taunted them and then subdued them without causing any damage. Not only that, he even told them to fight the strongest parties in his clan if they want to challenge him again. Just then, the guy whose hairstyle is a mix of Josuk and Polnareff comes there from his recon mission. He tells Arnold that he went to the 3 top parties that Cry told them to fight against, and he was met with surprise and disappointment. Sven clearly told the man that Cry must be playing pranks on them, and they don't have to take him seriously. He then went to the elf girl who was refilling the relics, because her party is also one of the three strongest, and she told him that they are not Cry's underlings and they want none of his bullshit. Finally, he went to Ark's party and didn't even get to meet Ark as his bitches told him to not believe anything that Cry tells him. Arnold, who has been roaming around in his birthday suit, is really furious to hear this, and he swears to get revenge on Cry. However, another of his lackeys tells him that they should wait for the grand auction to buy some better gear for that, and if they are lucky, they can sell the weird relic that went unsold in their kingdom. On the other hand, Cry and Tino are visiting a relic shop to get a relic they recently found analyzed by an expert. When Tino tells him that she found it in a level 1 treasure vault by following Cry's advice, the old man is shocked because the relic is quite high level. Cry is glad to hear that and asks about its effects, but the old man replies that he needs to do some elaborate testing for it, and that will take time since he has tons of relics that he needs to appraise before the auction. Cry gets even more excited on hearing this and asks the man to show him the relics that will be put up for auction, and tells him to talk to Tino in the meantime. The old man somehow agrees to this trade-off because Tino reminds him of his granddaughter. He asks her how is everything going, and tells her to rely on her friends if things get tough. He says that despite his bad habits, Cry is a reliable man, and that sends Tino in a downward spiral. She says that her master is a wonderful man despite his huge debt and reckless tendencies, and she is nothing compared to him. This makes the old geezer worry about what she is learning, so he decides to confront Cry, who has just found something really valuable among the relics. It is a mask that is formed by skinning the colossal titan's face, and Cry thinks that it can allow him to change his appearance as he wants. He used to have one earlier, but Liz broke it since it was creepy, and that's why he really wants it so that he can live freely without being bothered by anyone. The old man comes there just then and asks him to leave the shop because he has work to do. However, Cry tells him that he is interested in the mask, and he wants to talk directly with the person who sent it for appraisal. The old man says that he has not even appraised it yet, but arranges a meeting. After that, Cry and Tino go out for some dessert, where she asks him how is he going to get money to buy the creepy mask. She tells him that Citri is spending a lot of money on her research and on providing free mana potions to the mages, so she doesn't have too much to spare. This makes Cry tense, and as he walks back to the clan building, he thinks that if he asks Liz for money, she will definitely rob other people. He wonders if there is someone else who can lend him a huge sum, when suddenly, he sees a noble's carriage in front of their building. Just then, a blonde girl comes there along with Ark, thanking him for the tour of the building. She says that while all hunters are stupid assholes, Ark is a true gentleman, and she was glad to see the place he works at. Cry and Tino just stare at her, and Blondie's attitude changes as she addresses them. She rudely asks what are they staring at. Ark introduces the girl as Eclair, the daughter of an earl, and Cry as his clan master. Eclair says that she has heard a lot about Cry, and he looks too weak to be a person who is at level 8. She throws more shade at him, saying that a weakling like him doesn't deserve to be above Ark. But Cry hears her out with a smile. Eclair gets flustered and asks why is he not reacting to her words, and Cry politely replies that since he was poor while growing up and has no manners, he tries to be careful around nobles. Eclair suddenly starts feeling like she is the bad guy here and decides to leave immediately. After that, Cry makes some small talk with Ark, before asking him if he has a lot of money. Ark knows that Cry wants to buy a relic in the auction, and he clearly refuses to lend him any money. Cry is disappointed and goes to Sven with the same request, and Ark laughs his ass off about it. Everyone in the clan heard Cry trying to borrow money to buy a relic, and the word spreads around the city like wildfire. Everyone starts thinking that it must be a legendary artifact if Cry is so desperate to get it, and its value starts rising. He tells him that she will give him as much money as he wants and put her needs behind his, which makes Cry feel guilty and uncomfortable. They wait for the owner of the relic is none other than Arnold, who is equally astonished to see him. They sit down to negotiate, and while Citri and Arnold's lackey play mind games, the big guy suddenly speaks up. He says that they don't even know the effect of the mask, but if Cry is so desperate to buy it, he must know something about it. He refuses to make any sort of deal before knowing the effect of the mask and asks Cry to spill the beans. Cry says that he can't tell him the details, but he is sure that the mask is dangerous and its use is banned by their country. He tells Arnold to let it go now before he lands in trouble, and that triggers the big guy's ego. He says he won't sell it, but immediately does a double take. He begins thinking that Cry is using reverse psychology on him, and he wants to taunt his ego so that he keeps the ugly and dangerous mask with him, since he doesn't have a use for the mask anyway. He thinks it is better to sell it off now before things get troublesome, and he decides to give Cry an offer he cannot refuse. He offers to sell the mask for 10 million, which comes as a shock to Cry, since he was praying that Arnold agrees to sell it for 30 million. Citri tells him that it is fine since the other party set the price, and immediately brings out the 10 million in cash to buy the relic. However, there are other people in the cafe who want to buy the rumored relic, and they start a bidding war which is won by Eclair, who offers a bid of 100 million. Cry can't compete with that, and he remains depressed for the rest of the day. Eva tells him that the price rose so high because of the rumor about him borrowing money from Arkansas. In the end, even Eclair couldn't buy the mask because other nobles started to show interest in it as well, and the government decided to send it to the auction after all. Eva then scolds Cry for trying to spend so much money when he is already in debt, and he promises her that he won't do it now. However, Citri comes to the room with a huge bag of gold just then, telling Cry that she has arranged 800 million bucks so that they can go toe-to-toe with the nobles. Eva is horrified to see this amount, and Citri coyly explains that she had been saving this money for her wedding with Cry, so it is only fair if they use it early. Eva starts lecturing her, saying that she is the one who has made Cry so irresponsible, but she says that it is her money, so it is fine. Cry doesn't want to see their fight, so he goes to the window to get some air. Citri comes there soon enough with a suggestion to meet Eclair, so that they can learn why she wants the relic and maybe negotiate with her. Cry likes the idea, and they immediately go to see Eclair, who is not pleased by their arrival. She tells Cry that he is as bold as Ark in coming to her directly, and he begins saying that he is not Ark's rival, but just a friend. He comes clean and says that he has not surpassed Ark, but Eclair thinks that he is making fun of her crush. She declares that she will buy the strongest relic at any cost and give it to Ark so that he can become the strongest. But Cry tells her that Ark won't be too happy about it. He says that no one can become the strongest just by using a relic, but Eclair is not ready to lose to him. She says that she will definitely buy the relic for Ark, and Citri tells her that their budget is 200 million bucks, and if Eclair cannot arrange more money than that, she should back down. The girl gets disheartened because she can't afford that much, but when she goes to her dad, he says that if they lose to Cry, it will dishonor their family. He is ready to withdraw some money from their savings and even take a loan, but he tells Eclair that she must definitely win the auction against Cry. Soon, it is the day of the auction, and Citri and Cry are on their way to the auction house with 950 million bucks. Citri says that she could have arranged more money, but Cry says that this is enough, and she doesn't need to take on any more of this burden. She tries leaning on him, but Liz pulls Cry towards herself, saying that if they fail to win the mask at the auction, she can just steal it from whoever buys it. The two sisters start playing tug-of-war with Cry, who thinks that the mask was really not worth this much trouble, and if he can't get it from the auction, he will quietly accept his defeat. Soon, they reach the high-tech-looking auction building, and there is a huge crowd there. Liz asks if these broke-ass bitches are also here to take part in the auction. But Cry tells her that most of them are here just to watch the bidding. Just then, Tino and her party also arrive there, because they were quite curious about the auction too. Everyone has already heard about Cry being in debt and still bidding for some incredible relic, and that gets him a lot more attention than he wants. So he comes up with a clever idea and asks Tino to bid on his behalf while he will just give her the signal. She is really happy to receive this chance, and Liz tells her that if she doesn't win the bidding war, she won't have a home to return to. Tino is determined to win the auction, but Cry thinks that it is just wishful thinking because he is the one going to give the signal. Just then, the blonde lowly Eclair comes there in her carriage, and she arrogantly turns her face away as she sees Cry. Soon after that, the auction starts, and as the items get sold one by one, Cry can only patiently wait for the mask to come up for sale. It is going to be the last item because of the buzz it has generated, and Cry curses the organizers of the auction because he can't bid on other items as he needs to save his funds for the last. Tino keeps looking at him whenever a new item is displayed, but as Cry keeps refusing everything, she starts looking anxious. This in turn forces Cry to have second thoughts because he is a sucker for relics, no matter how simple or useless they are. He keeps fighting his desires to give Tino a signal as each new item comes on the stage, but then he suddenly thinks about Citri's reaction when she sees him bidding for things other than the mask. As he sees her gentle smile, Cry realizes that this Omega simp will definitely forgive everything he does. He suddenly gets up, using confidence and determination to bet at every item that comes up in the auction from this point. Just then, the auctioneer brings out the next item, which turns out to be the Akashic Golem that Citri had created while she was working for the Akashic Tower. While Cry is confused about it, one look at Citri's confused face makes him remember that it was one of the two things she asked him to negotiate with the government. As the bids start to go up, Cry turns to Citri, asking if she wants to buy it. It is clear that she really wants to get the golem that she spent too much money and effort to make, but she tells Cry that it is not the thing that they came here for. She says that the golem is a memento of her comrades, but she can live without it, but Cry is not having any of that. He tells Citri that he will buy the golem for that, and immediately gives Tino the signal to join the bidding war. The price of the golem goes beyond 400 million in no time, and Citri asks Cry if he is sure to spend their money on it rather than saving it for the mask. He acts cool, but deep inside, he is only doing this because the money belongs to Citri anyway. The price of the golem keeps rising, and in the end, Cry signals Tino to bid all 950 million bucks they have. When another party bids 1 billion bucks, Citri thinks all hope is lost. However, Cry had been hiding a trump card for moments like this, and he keeps on bidding, ultimately winning the golem for 1.6 billion bucks. Citri and Liz are shocked because this is way over their budget, but then Cry takes out a check from his pocket and gives it to Citri so that she can pay the amount they bid. Citri is really happy to receive the amount and promises to pay it back to Cry soon, but he thinks that she should pay it back to his sister Lucia instead, as he took out that money from her savings. Anyway, the auctioneer announces the identity of the person who bid the highest amount, and it turns out that it wasn't Tino but Scarface, who still has to process what just happened. Later, Tino apologizes to Cry, saying that she had no idea about how bidding works, and Scarface offered to help. so she let him do the bidding. Cry thinks that is fine, and he decides to leave the building to rest, telling Tino and her friends that he was planning to buy only the golem from the beginning. He doesn't even wait for the mask to be put on auction, but just as he goes outside, he recalls that the lowly wanted to give it to Ark, and he suddenly gets an idea about how to get his hands on the mask after all. Cry immediately goes to Ark's office and tells him that the relic Eclair has won is really dangerous, and he should go to her place immediately to handle the situation. While Ark's side bitches tell him to stop ordering them, Ark takes Cry's words seriously and asks if he needs to take a weapon with him. Cry says that he doesn't, and then says that if he fails in reaching Eclair soon enough, it will be a sad thing. Ark understands his assignment and leaves immediately, and Cry is happy because he will be able to buy the mask at a friendly price from Ark once he gets it from Eclair. However, Eclair is sitting gloomily in her room right now because earlier, her father didn't acknowledge her efforts and said that Cry let her win the mask. The butler had gathered information about Cry leaving the auction house even before the mask came up, and Eclair's father thought that they were scammed into paying $200 million for a creepy and ugly mask. Now that Eclair is alone in her room with the mask, she starts crying, thinking that she was a fool, and she can't give this mask to Ark at all. Suddenly, she hears a voice coming from the mask, asking if she wants power. The mask suddenly starts floating in the sky, telling Eclair that it can give her the power she needs to make her life better. She immediately draws her sword to fight back against it, realizing that Cry was not lying when he said that the mask was dangerous. However, it seems too late for her to do anything, because the mask's tentacles suddenly overwhelm her. At the same time, Ark is meeting with Eclair's dad, who tells her how dejected she has been ever since he told her that she wasted his money on the useless mask. She has shut herself in her room right now, and her dad believes that she will open up to Arkansas suddenly. They hear loud explosions, and Ark's party immediately springs to action. They find a guard knocked out in the hallway, and then Eclair arrives there dragging another guard. She is under the mask's control now, and she swears that she will kill everyone who looks down on her. She eats the poor guard at the walls, and though everyone is afraid, Ark calmly approaches her and kneels before her to ask what is happening. She tells him that she won this mask to make him the strongest, and he asks her to give it to him then. Eclair almost obeys him, but when she sees his sword, she suddenly gets enraged. Ark recalls that Cry had told him to go without a weapon, but since he made the mistake of bringing his sword, the situation has turned worse. He realizes that he doesn't have any other way but to fight Eclair to subdue her, and he asks his party to make sure that they don't harm the girl and only take off the mask from her face. Ark and his party return to the clan building after dealing with the mask problem, and Cry immediately bows down to apologize for causing trouble for them. He thinks that Ark and others look beat up because Eclair may have thrown a tantrum, and Ark thinks that this mad lad had predicted everything that would happen correctly. He then gives the mask to Cry, and just then Eclair also comes ahead to apologize for picking a fight with him. The mask suddenly starts speaking, so Cry completely forgets about everything else and puts it on his face. The mask starts analyzing his abilities and finds that he is so weak that he can't meet the criteria for its activation that even Eclair could. The mask deactivates and falls to the ground, and though Cry is not happy that it is not the item he was looking for, a talking relic is good enough. He asks Eclair if he can keep it, and she is so grossed out that she doesn't even want to see the mask again. With that, everything is resolved, and Cry says that since everyone is here, they should enjoy the party he has thrown for them and eat some cake. Everyone starts enjoying themselves, and as Cry goes outside, he realizes that even Eclair is stronger than him, and now he wants to retire from being a treasure hunter yet again.